G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm of course Acaphilus, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Path of Champions Legends Runeterra. I will be going over some important news here that I would like to share with you regarding the monthly adventures that should be dropping at the end of the month. Now first things first, before we go ahead and proceed with this video, credit has to be given where credit is due. I did not procure this information, so it's only right and proper of me to credit the original procurer. And the original procurer is from a channel that goes by the handle of rolyatack. So essentially she had an interview with Mr. Dan Felder, and if that name rings a bell, that's because Mr. Dan was also the designer that was interviewed a couple days ago by Mr. Skilled Roy there on his Twitch stream, essentially going over what you can expect in future for Path of Champions, and of course the monthly challenges that should be dropping at the end of this month. Now the link to the full interview can be found in the description down below, but what I will be doing however is I will be extracting points that I think are extremely important for you guys to know regarding monthly challenges. So some of you who already caught my previous video will be wondering, wait, didn't you say that this was everything that I needed to know regarding the monthly challenges? Then what's the point of this new video here telling me there's more stuff I need to know? Well, I think as we all know, information changes and updates from time to time, and there's obviously new updates and developments here that I felt was important to bring forward to you guys. Therefore, with that in mind, what I will not be doing in this video, however, is I will not be going over the points that were already discussed in the previous video. You can check that out there, it's fairly in-depth, and the reason is because I don't want to waste too much of your time here. Some of you might already know the overlapping information, so those of you who don't, feel free to check out that video to find out more. Again, it should be linked up in the channel card, either on the top left or on the top right. Alright, so let's dive into this video. So the first part of the interview was mostly about the overlapping information like I mentioned, briefly talking about the monthly adventures, what they look like and what to expect. Once again, they are all covered in the everything you need to know video. It should be in the channel card up above. But let's go into the main thing that you're here to watch, the new stuff. So what I'm about to share here is probably really cool, because Mr. Dan here shared some in-game screenshots of how the monthly adventures will look. Now I'm not going to play the original audio clip for this segment, quite simply because whatever he described was filled and littered with game development jargon and language, which in my opinion isn't important to the point that I'm trying to show you. Therefore, I will be the one personally describing what he said to you, so hopefully it's a little bit more understandable. So let's take a look at the first screenshot here first, which is regarding the monthly adventures. So regarding the monthly adventures here, as you can see, there is a screenshot of how it would look like on the map. Now the colored pictures, as you can see here, are purportedly the close to in-game beta. I'm not really sure what's the correct technical or game development jargon here, but what I do know is that this is supposedly the final product or close to the final product. So it looks like the beta monthly challenges will be situated or located to the bottom right of your screen about here. However, what I do want to show you is also a draft version where the monthly challenges are also supposedly situated around here. Now obviously I have no knowledge of where these are going to be, but what I do know is that either way, they should be pretty easy to find as Mr. Dan described it. Now the next screenshot I want to show you is regarding the monthly challenges itself. So as you can see here, this is how the monthly challenges will look like. There will be a wall of text on your left, as well as slots that pertains to every monthly challenge. As you can see here, there's going to be 3 challenges shown for now with the following adventures locked. This is true to what Mr. Dan said in the previous video as well. Adventures or challenges will unlock in groups of 3, so completing 3 adventures will unlock the next 3, so on and so forth. Now the wall of text isn't really too important, it's more of a story mode thing where essentially it might give you a little bit more immersion. Basically it's Professor Heimerdinger here talking about some mysterious portals opening and the like, essentially just a fun little text that could be cool to read. Now before we move on into the next screenshot here, I just want to talk a little bit more about what Mr. Dan said pertaining to these adventures. So essentially what he did mention is that out of the 70 adventures in this mode, a majority of them, a good half of them at least, would be at least 3-star adventure difficulty or higher.
Over half of the adventures, I think, right now, we've tuned and we've explored, so things might be different by the time you get to it, but certainly around that are 3-star plus for this challenge, and it's designed to be evolving, challenging the deepest, furthest players of the roster.
Next, Mr. Dan also touched a little bit onto what you can do before each challenge.
You can see which challenge unlocks them, and you can also see what mutators they have and so on. In fact, this mode has a very interesting way of doing mutators. It's less present on the very first ones because we wanted to make sure that things were a bit easier for like players that were just unlocking the mode and getting their feet wet. But quickly it evolves to a format in which, while a lot of the mutators are the same as you'll see in weekly challenges, the weekly adventures, the mutators are done in a different way. It's much more a mixture of build around mutator in one slot and then make the encounter harder mutator in the other. So some of the build around mutators might be very player friendly, like ones you've seen before, like your first Shurima card costs 1 less, or your spells are doubled. But often they'll be global, like both players have this effect. And the goal of the first mutator is primarily to be something interesting that changes which champion you should bring to this adventure. Because what we really want for the macro level of strategy, to make this into like a resource management game, make you feel more like a general than just an individual hero, is the idea of picking the right champion for the right encounter. So one of the mutator slots is designed to make that a really impactful decision. And the other mutator slot is designed to make the opponent more challenging.
Finally, he also gave a brief advice on how you should approach these adventures. This is what he said.
Depends what you have. If you already have a lot of 2 and 1 star champions, get some to 3 stars. There are some really hard encounters in here. You're gonna need those nuclear weapons to like solve those big problems. If you already have a lot of 3-star champions, you're gonna need breadth, because a champion at 0 stars can still do 3 adventures or 3 attempts. They might only have a very small chance of winning, but they might get lucky.
Alright, so let's take a look at the champion select menu before every challenge. As you can see here, each champion has a marker indicating how many runs you can do with the champion. So I'm gonna assume when the number 3 hits 0, that means you can't use that champion anymore. And as you can see here, as mentioned earlier, you can see the mutators or the special rules or the powers, in other words, before you take on the challenge itself. So this is potentially the final product that you might see when the patch drops. What I do want to show you, however, is the wireframe version, which basically goes a little bit in depth onto how these champions are arranged. So basically your champions are arranged in ascending order. Your lower start champions will be arranged at the top, which are then preceded by your highest start ones. And on that note as well, champions that have been exhausted or basically run out of uses will be listed at the bottom. And finally, champions that you do not have unlocked will not be displayed at all on this champion select menu. Now that's not the final screenshot that I want to share with you, however. I have a couple more screenshots regarding the structure of the adventure itself, as well as what you can expect from the shop notes in the path as well. So let's just quickly go over a couple screenshots of some of these adventures here. So Mr. Dan enlightened us a little bit onto how the structures of these adventures will be. Now he did mention that these challenges will be really short, and as you can see, they are really short. In this first screenshot there's only 1 battle, and in the next one there's only 2. Now there's obviously a couple notes along the way, and they pretty much give you the same rewards as you've been encountering here in PoC. Now Mr. Dan here touched a little bit on a specific note in particular, which is the shop note. So as you can see here, this is pretty much your standard shop. There are 6 cards available. You have the option to buy cards, buy items, and then leave. If you're very familiar with the PoC, you can already tell the difference here is that the buy power tab in the middle has been swapped out for a tab that buys items. Unfortunately, he did not show a screenshot of this, but what I'm assuming is that this will allow you to purchase items with the gold that you have for the adventure.
So here's the new shop. It looks a lot like the old shop, but there's a few changes. One, we significantly increased the likelihood that you will see stuff from your character's synergistic pool. Also, we increased the value of the items on the carts, because one of the pieces of feedback we got from players was often they feel like the items they see in shops aren't interesting, they aren't better than the average card in their deck, and they just buy the power every time. You might notice that there's no power tab in this shop. Instead it says buy items. So instead of just, I actually don't have the screen for it, but basically it just looks like the 3 cards that are already in your deck, getting an item for them. Also, the cost is like much more expensive, because usually those are cards that already are really good in your deck, and you can choose between like buying some new cards from your deck to really encourage you to feel good about doing that, or upgrading some of the cards in your existing deck. But it's not a situation of, here's a bunch of cards, I should always just buy the power, whatever the power is, which a lot of people felt like they were. That's how the normal shops often feel.
As we all know, powers are quite frankly the most important and the most useful thing in the PoC, so taking that away will definitely add an element of challenge to the adventure itself. On a quick side note as well, Mr. Dan did mention that you cannot re-roll legendary powers in this particular challenge mode. In his own words, he mentioned it was actively impossible to do so right now. So I guess in closing, you can sum this up in a similar fashion or manner to what he said. In a normal adventure, you usually pick a champion and hope you get good powers. In a monthly challenge, however, it works conversely, where you see the powers that you're gonna face and you pick a champion that will actually work around or work with it. Next up, we're gonna go over 2 things here that was asked that wasn't addressed in Mr. Roy's interview. So the most exciting one is probably regarding the new champions. All 3 new champions coming for Glory of Navori, SETT, SAMIRA, and Jack, will be added into the PoC.
We're doing all 3, and it's one of the things that's really nice is that the more we have the champions content we make, the better we get it.
Mr. Dan proceeded to reinforce the statement that Riot wants to give players what they want.
We want like champions to be in Path of Champions. We don't want to hold anything necessarily. So we're just noticing that people are playing the mode, they're really liking the mode, people who play PvP are also playing it, and people are supporting the mode, not just with their time, but also they're buying the event passes and stuff. And they keep posting, guys, I'm buying the event pass to show you I care, please do more. And we're like, of course, we're going to want to support what people like and enjoy as long as they like and enjoy it.
Alright, and that is pretty much all I have for you today, so I hope you enjoyed this short little discussion on what you can expect in terms of the monthly adventures. If I find any more information, news, or updates just like this one, I will definitely bring it to you as soon as I possibly can. Definitely stay tuned to the channel as well. I will be sharing the reveals of the cards as well as the level up animations whenever they are out. So if that sounds interesting to you, please consider leaving a like as well as subscribing to the channel. I really do appreciate that support, but most importantly, it's so that you don't miss future episodes or uploads of Legends Runeterra or Path of Champions content just like this one. With all that being said, this is Kevlar signing off. Hopefully I catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.